This is Monroe County Sheriff Todd Baxter talking to you on Facebook Live for one of the first times ever. I want to talk to you about a detail that we've been running, a retail theft detail, over the last few months to address the serial larcenists in our community. We want to paint the picture of why this is important to you, that it costs each one of us money, no matter where you are, what demographics you come from, where in the county you live. This is costing us money. This problem is also fueling violence and drug addiction. And we're going to paint that picture very clearly. The last couple hours, I was able to interview friends here in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Those are a lead detective putting together this detail, and one of our deputies that's responsible for getting people in the addictive state into help and getting them in their recovery. We wanted to paint the picture for you today to show that there's a huge problem and understand what's important to you and then what you can do about it. And we watch this tape, we'll come back and we'll answer a few questions. I think it's very important that we have two-way communication today. That's why we're Facebook Live. So when we come back, we want you to talk to us, ask us a few questions, put them in the comment box down below or at the email address that you see on the screen. And you can email me a few questions. I'll try and answer them today, live, as we come back, or we'll answer them as we go throughout the weekend. Watch for more videos throughout the weekend. This is going to be a two-way communication. We want a dialogue going back and forth. We want people to get engaged. We want middle of the road people here in Monroe County to go, why is this important? Why do I care? Why are people walking into box stores with shopping carts full of saws, shopping carts full of groceries? What's the problem and what can we do about it as a community? Be right back. Look forward to talking to you soon. So this conversation is not strange to anybody in the area. They all know there's a huge retail theft problem. They see the reports on the evening news, stolen equipment, stolen property, leaving box stores. They see stolen cars all over Monroe County by the number of 4,000. That's an incredible number. What they don't see is, like, we estimate $71 million lost here in Monroe County in the last 2 years. That's out of retail stores, $71 million. And who's paying for that? You and me. As we go back to the store, it's called an inflation rate. Or more importantly, the people that can't afford to pay that inflation rate, they're going to the same store. I mean, this problem is absolutely huge. So the conversation I want to have today is, how does it affect the average Jane and Joe out there? How does it affect the average person? You might see news clips, so we're bringing in two experts that I've challenged to run a proactive detail to address some of these thefts. And that's where Investigative Sergeant Bolton comes in, leads our criminal investigation section, lots of years of experience doing the detective side of the work. Welcome. Good to have you. Absolutely.
Nice to be here.
And Deputy Mike Favada, a lot of people see that face on TV a lot because you run a portion of our heroin task force, and that deals with addiction, but you're on the preventive and the recovery side of it, not so much the enforcement, working with people under a state of addiction, but you help put together this detail. Mike, great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is a conversation that we need to have, and people need to see and hear it, because people don't really know, why do I need to be concerned about retail theft? And this is organized. This is over a huge amount of time. This is repeat offenders, maybe even dangerous. You know, we keep on talking about those two standards here, repeat offender in laws that we need and a danger standard in laws, right? And these folks are dangerous as they lead our car chases and they're getting arrested multiple times. So Sarge, we asked you, hey, do something about this, right? That's a big problem. $71 million, repeat offenders, the criminal justice reforms we got to work under. People are fit to be tied. So we said, let's put together a detail. What'd you come up with?
So we were challenged to put together a detail to try and address some of this problem. And I'm going to tell you the detail encompassed, and when we appreciate the support, encompassed over 20 deputies working in conjunction with global loss prevention to some box stores in the area to kind of combine efforts and see what we could do to try to stop or at least identify some of the problem out there and kind of quantify it and give it a little shape.
I think that's an important part because everybody wants data, right? That's how the kickback is always, give me the data, show me the data. You're going to be able to quantify some of this for us today, and that's pretty exciting. That we're actually going to put some numbers and some stats on top of this problem.
Absolutely. So what we ended up doing was we ended up running 3 details. Each detail was 3 days in length. Those hours encompass not the entirety of the business day. So our numbers are a snapshot, really, of what goes on.
Thank you.
Out there during the day. During the detail, we made 49 arrests of offenders at the stores. We were able to recover 4 stolen vehicles. We served 36 warrants, people who had warrants who were out either on bail or on crimes that they had committed.
And they may be in addition to the arrest for the larcenies you guys are making. They may be warrants for those or additional people you're running across that have warrants because you're out proactive.
Correct. Yeah. So being in the lots, that's where we ended up finding, like I said, stolen vehicles, warrant suspects. These are all right there where people are going to shop,
right.
And that's where we're finding these people.
Right. And just to clarify, when we talk about box stores, we're being very generic for a particular reason. Those people that are running those stores don't want a negative connotation on top of their business plan, right? So they're working hand in hand with us. They're our friends. They're allowing us in their stores. We're working with their loss prevention people, but we're trying not to make a negative stigma on top of certain stores because they don't need that for their business plan. But they've been very forthcoming, I think. Not only with helping us to do these details, but also providing the information of the loss. That's $71 million. That's not just what we're making arrests and larcenies. That's what they're estimating they're losing here in Monroe County.
And that loss is an estimate. So
Right.
that's just the stores that we're dealing with.
Think about that.
That number is much, much bigger. In fact, from the people that we've arrested on these details, we can attribute about $250,000 of loss attributed just to the people that we arrested on these details, and that's just the loss that we could identify, just from that small slice of stores.
Right.
So that loss is
It's huge.
huge.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that estimate, how we estimate, because we got some additional great data that we're able to collect, and that's the pawn data, the secondhand dealership data, that again, we're going to multiply by a reasonable conservative amount to show what the problem is just with some of these people, these offenders that are out there just repeating over and over. And Deputy Pavada, just bring in your, you've been given a job for the last couple of years, really work with people in addiction, right? And it was really designed to save lives. That's your primary function, is to help people in addiction and save lives. But we know a lot of these larcenies by millions of dollars are being committed with people under a state of addiction. So that's where you come into this detail. Try and provide, as we're making these numbers of arrests, these are incredible numbers, and it's proactive, and we're trying to make that intervention. And how many people actually took advantage of your intervention? This is Deputy Mike Favada for a living for the last few years, help people and save their lives when they're under a state of addiction. We make this number of arrests. How many people took advantage of your intervention?
Yeah, not one took advantage of it. And we were, sat and took a lot of time talking to them, whether it was at the scene or back at the zone, and basically said, look, we know what you're doing. They've either admitted that they had a drug problem and they were feeding that drug problem through this crime.
Right.
That's why we did this. But basically offered them that right then and there. We'll take you to a treatment provider and get you the help that you need. No questions asked. We'll go right now. And not one of them took advantage of that.
So, why?
Oh, a majority of them told us basically, give me my appearance ticket, and why would I want to go to treatment when I can go right back out there? That was said multiple times.
People are going to think that's a fallacy. People that don't, that think we just want to lock people up. This is what you do for a living. You try and save lives, right?
Correct.
Even these people that are committing larcenies in progress, you're trying to save their life.
Yep, and the thing is, we say it's it's forced compassion, right?
Right, forced compassion.
Forced
I like
compassion. But when you get somebody locked up for a couple days, it clears their head.
Right.
They're not using the drugs. They may start thinking more clearly and make the right decision.
And they may be detoxing the right way.
Correct.
In a medical assisted therapy wing of the Monroe County Jail with medical staff 24/7, as opposed to maybe trying to detox on their own, which is almost impossible, right?
Correct.
I cut you off, Sarge.
No, not at all. When you think about it, when we come to these people, we've just caught them committing a crime, right? They've just stolen something. Their adrenaline's up. They're probably there stealing to try to feed their addiction, try to get to that next high. And we've stopped them, and they know that we can only stop them for the amount of time it takes us to write that appearance ticket.
Right.
And they can get back out. If you think, I like the term jail, I like to say jail is a good thing when you frame it with, that gives that person the time to think clearly, as Deputy Favada said. It gives them the time to kind of put themselves in perspective. They're not in the moment anymore, and now maybe that offer is accepted, or maybe that offer is, you're able to hear that offer. It also allows us to provide services. It allows us, the jail here has done a very good job of developing services for these people, and those services, we can provide them when we can offer them, but we can't offer them if we can't get you to where those services are.
And I love the thing you just said, Sarge, is they're not hearing us. They can't hear us. They're in an addictive state. They don't even know what day of the week is sometimes. They're trying to survive for their next hit, right? That's the ultimate craving. Things they'll do crazy enough is like steal, leave their kids at home alone, right? Steal from their own grandmother. Right? These are all real things people under an addictive state because, again, it's so it's controlling them, all-consuming. Yet we want to issue them an appearance ticket and hope they show up to court later on, which we're going to show statistically. Everybody wants data. We'll show statistically how many people don't show up to court and how much work it takes us to go grab them again. but we're not helping them one bit. You know, these numbers are utterly incredible. So 49 arrests in these details, but we're only going to report on the first 2 details. How many got appearance tickets?
So
of the first 2 details.
So of the first 2 details, 30 people total got appearance tickets.
And the other ones were remanded to the custody because they had felonies or
Outstanding warrants,
predicates.
predicate, correct.
So under our bail reform law, allows us to detain those people, allows the judge to detain them. But of the ones that we couldn't detain, the ones that Mike offered services to, they got appearance tickets by law.
Correct.
How many of those people didn't show up for their court date?
So in the first one, we had 13 people arrested and issued appearance tickets. 6 of those people didn't show up. A caveat to that is 2 of those people ended up showing up for court because they were arrested on other charges and were in another jail and came back. In the second detail, we arrested 13 people, 7 being issued appearance tickets, and of those 7 people, none of them showed up for court.
100% of the people we gave appearance ticket to never showed up to court. They have a warrant for their arrest.
Correct.
And we got to go find them again.
Yep.
Or if we don't find them in a timely manner under New York State law, their initial charges may be dropped or dismissed. Could potentially be, and we see that a lot in the talking points of people saying, "Well, look how many cases are dismissed." Sounds like cops are making bad arrests when it may be just the system's not working fast enough. We already had them once, now we got to go find them a second time. That's an utterly incredible point that I want to make. That this is having a multiple effect. Not only is it hurting the people that we're trying to help, it's hurting us, all of us. Is $71 million lost, and someone's got to pay for that. And we all do as a community. If you think about it, the fact is some people don't even get justice because these cases might be dropped.
You're right, Sheriff, and think about this too. Of those warrant arrests that we talked about we made, a number of those warrant arrests, we made the arrests, and those people were then released because the underlying charge wasn't bail eligible, so we picked them up on a warrant that we were out looking for them for,
Right.
and then we wrote them another appearance ticket on that same warrant, which they certainly didn't show up for again.
It almost sounds stupid. I'm going to go out on a limb. It's going to be my technical definition of some of this stuff because it's hard to explain to the average person. That's why we're doing this. I want people to understand this isn't just data sets or we can argue, pro law enforcement, anti law enforcement, pro incarceration. It's nothing to do with that. These are individuals. Mike and Deputy Favada, these are human beings, right? So they're committing crimes. We're cops. We live to lock up criminals, but they're coming back to our community sooner or later, or they're under an addictive state. And even for the humanitarian in this conversation that might be listening to this, of those people we issued appearance tickets, how many have OD'd?
And we had 1 pass away from a fatal overdose, and a total of 5 had overdosed.
And each one of those is a Narcan away from a fatal.
Correct.
Right? So
Yep.
of the people we had, 6 have overdosed, 1 died.
Correct.
We had them in custody.
Yep.
We had them in custody committing crimes in progress, and probably can articulate they repeated multiple crimes. And we can't keep them long enough in the Monroe County Jail to detox them and get them the Suboxone and get them the good treatment providers that you know by first name.
Correct. And one of the individuals that we arrested, we actually got him on both details and a stolen vehicle both times. And he's one of the people that had overdosed.
And overdosed.
Correct.
Right.
And you think about how are these people supposed to come back, right? We continue to issue appearance tickets, and we continue to get them with warrants, and now their criminal history continues to grow. So how do we stop that growth in their criminal history? How do we help them to not be on that road anymore if we're not able to stop them from hurting themselves? It has to stop.
Right, right. And then again, going back to New York State laws, so over the last few years, there's been small adjustments to our bail reform laws, if you will, and they're starting to add some language about, they actually removed language about the least restrictive means. We're pretty excited about that, but that moved the needle 3% forward. They started putting some wording inside this law about, if they're a repeat offender or they're dangerous to self, you can articulate they're going to overtake. You can possibly put a case together to present to a judge. That's the problem here. This law is so convoluted. These laws have changed so fast. 6 huge law changes, including bail. That's just one of the 6. And you got different judges all over Monroe County. You got different, public defenders arguing the case. You got different prosecutors. You got different cops. And it's all this. We need clean law. I mean, a law should be clean. Mike Favada, with your expertise, should look at this person and go, they're dangerous. They're going to OD, and the fact that they don't die is just a miracle. And I think we should detain them long enough, based on this criminal charge, to detox them appropriately and get them to appropriate as an individual human being. And that's what we're not. We're looking at them as a stat and a crime, a criminal. Which, again, they're stealing. Lock them up. Don't keep them forever, but look at them as an individual and create a plan around that person to intervene.
And I would say that's
Clean law.
it's a false narrative to think that people are getting thrown away when they go to jail.
Oh,
I think that's a false narrative. Particularly in the Monroe County Jail, we offer services and we give them a chance to stop their current behavior and start on a new path. How do we offer that break if we can't?
Yeah, talk to our friends next door at the treatment courts, right? they're empty almost. I mean, there's no one going to treatment court because there's no stick in the system. It used to be a carrot and a stick. Now it's just a bunch of carrots, and people are not taking advantage of the treatment courts that were designed to help people and get them out of this situation. So let's just do a little snapshot, trying to paint the picture for the public out there. Deputy Favada. So we all know, we're calling him John Doe. I said, let's use his first name. His name is Mike. He's a known offender. He's a repeat offender. I think we can put that term on him pretty easy. He's doing numbers that are incredible. And this is one person. I just want to go back to our details. So you ran 3 details, each 3 days apiece. During those details, you were also monitoring how many calls for service were coming in across the rest of the county for larcenies in progress.
Yeah, larcenies between Monroe County and the city of Rochester was 425 calls for larcenies in a total of 9 days.
While we're doing our details.
Correct.
We're out there proactively making arrests and targeting, and at the same time. So you got to look at the problem, people. You got to make a conservative estimate that if we're doing this much and recovering this amount of money, and we're going to show Mike here in a second how much just one individual in our detail is costing you and I, you got to multiply that by hundreds. 400 calls came in at the same time for larcenies in progress. That's an incredible hit on our community.
That's 400 reported larcenies, Sheriff.
How many underreported, right? It's hard to say that again. It's important, right? I mean, how many? You're out there with these stores. How many times don't the store call us?
So that is a problem, right? The stores aren't calling for low dollar values anymore. The stores aren't calling if it's a high volume of calls in a day. The stores aren't calling because the police simply don't have the time on occasion to make it out there in a timely fashion. So I would, conservatively estimate that we're underreporting by half.
Absolutely.
In conversations with the retailers.
You guys know you're there with the retailers. You're there with the addicted people. Half. Larcenies in Monroe County may be underreported by half.
Yep.
And it's the thing is, these businesses can't sustain this type of loss. People say that these big box stores can afford that, but let's talk about the mom and pop stores. Let's talk about the little family-owned businesses that are getting hit just as hard.
Right.
You see the bike shops have been being targeted. They've been doing these smash and grabs there. These little grocery stores. I mean, these are, again, family-owned businesses that can't sustain $1,000 a day in loss in property.
And these are in the communities where the people need those stores in the community. Maybe they don't have a car. Maybe they're walking to the corner store. That small mom and pop shop can't afford these losses, can't stay in business. And now how does that person get the things that they need?
Yeah, and the tenets behind some of these reforms, in particular we're talking about bail reform right now, right, weren't bad tenets. Fix a broken system. And I think the old bail system was a little broken, right? It needed to be tweaked. No, not one chief in Monroe County argued with that. But obviously it wasn't fixed perfect. So just go back to the drawing board like any other business plan and go, how do I help Rite Aid on North Clinton Avenue that had 7 larcenies yesterday? I was there. They had 7 larcenies. They can't afford to stay open on Clinton Avenue. Where are the people that live in that community going to go for their milk? Where are they going to go for their prescriptions, right? Where are they going to... This is not fair to the community. This is not fair to the victims, not only of the larceny, but all the people that are surrounding that store, that are part of that store community, are paying for it. And then if you're poor, it might be $7 more to go to a local box store. For you and I, not a big deal. If you're poor, every time you go to the local box store, every time you go to your local grocery store and you're paying $7, that's inflation you can't afford. And we're not even thinking about those people as victims of this.
And then think about, as you mentioned earlier, how are they going to get there? They're going to have to pay for their transportation now once these stores are out of this, out of these areas. How are they going to pay the Uber, the gas to get to buy these products? It's
Let's take a snapshot. And again, everybody wants their poster child. We don't like to talk like that, and I don't also like to talk about data because all these data points are really human beings and people involved. But people want data. I think you guys nailed some good data. I can't wait to hear the arguments about this because I will. It's a small fraction. The idea is there's victims, and we're all victims. If you're going to a store and buying something, you're paying an inflated rate for that, you're a victim. If you can't afford it because you're on a fixed income, you're more of a victim. The box stores are victims. They're going to move out, but the mom and pop stores are going to move out. They're victims. They put investment into that property. They put investment into that store. We're all losing at the sake of criminals that we can't even keep in a timeout long enough to intervene in their life before they OD and die, and or at least stop their criminal activity so we all don't have to keep on paying the piper. So let's just use one because everybody likes to hear the little, that snapshot of a person, right? So Deputy Favada, let's talk about Mike a little bit. Why don't you describe this individual in our community?
Yeah, you look at his pawn total, prior to the arrest on so basically just over $12,600. Okay, now that's
What he pawned before you arrested him.
well, that's what he pawned before we arrested him. $12,637.
Then you grab him on a detail.
Correct. Yeah, and since that detail, he was over $2,500 in pawns. Okay, and this is all brand new items in the box. And you think about that is 30% on the dollar. That's not even full amount of what this product is worth. And total loss to our retailers, $42,125
Right.
from him.
Prior to the arrest.
Prior to the arrest.
You arrest him, you identify him as a potential criminal, you make the apprehension, you offer him services. He eventually is back on the streets. And we know, just based on our ability to gather data, everybody wants data, that he's probably stolen and hawked off at a secondhand dealer another $8,000 worth of stolen merchandise since we had him in custody. And we know that's on a 30% value, right?
Correct.
That's 30% of a dollar, because the local pawn shop's not paying 100% of value for the Makita saw, right?
No, absolutely not.
Right? So, I mean, think about that. That's one guy that we grabbed on this detail that is fortunately alive and has an OD. That's the worst thing that can happen because we're losing a human.
All these stores that he's stealing from are employing people in our community as well. This is jobs for them. The tax revenue lost, I know he's not paying. Is he paying income on this? Is he claiming this on his taxes?
Right.
For the pawn? Absolutely not. I mean, you think of how big, just as simple as people say,
You
simple
bring up a
larceny.
good point. The Sarge likes to talk about this. So you go back to just the millions and millions of dollars lost. Not only is that an inflation rate for all of us because we're paying that, right? Everybody goes back to that store is going to pay that. You also talk a lot about the lost tax revenue.
Yeah,
Millions and millions.
Millions of dollars in lost tax revenue. In fact, pre-bail reform was we were losing about $1.8 million in tax revenue to larcenies. Since bail reform, we're in the, what was it, Mike, about
Over seven?
$7 million?
Yeah, it was close to $7 million.
So
over
close
there.
to $7 million in lost tax revenue. Programs, money that could be spent on programs that could help people. We always talk about the inflation rate. That's part of the inflation rate. So that you have tax inflation and you have goods inflation,
Right.
and we're hitting it on both sides here, hard.
Yeah, very.
And you think about some of these. So we talked about secondhand dealers or these pawn numbers. So a secondhand dealer, they take in property and then they resell it, right? So they're going to buy it at a lower cost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what responsibility is there to them when the same person is coming in with the same 3 Makita saws, new in the box, and selling it at a third of the value?
Right.
I mean, what's going on there? I mean, again, it's another hit to our economy, and it's another source for these people to feed addiction.
And we can talk a lot about the secondhand dealers. We came up with some licensing a few years ago. We're able to track. That's where we get a lot of this data. People want data. Did I say that 3 times already? So here's your data. This is Mike pawning that we know of because of our laws in Winona County, making them, the pawn dealers, collect information
Absolutely.
and report it to us. And we know that's a small snapshot and a 30% value on the dollar of what we're talking about. So Mike is a good snapshot of what's going on. Another part I think we have to talk about, of all this money that's being stolen, and of all this money that's being hawked off at the secondhand dealers, and again, there's many secondhand dealers that aren't legitimate, right? That don't have a sign on their door.
And I think that's what I'm getting at, right? Is this is a number of people who are reporting, who are following the law.
Doing the law.
There's a large portion that aren't. And so that number is actually quite small, I'm sure.
Again, small. And we just did a drug warrant in the town of Chile, and how much stolen equipment in boxes, the Makita saws and the.
Yeah, so that drug warrant was like a 3 kilo
3
drug
kilos.
warrant. And when they got in there, they found basically a secondhand dealer store. There was shelving, marked sections for
Right.
new in the box items, and it was full, an entire house full. Nobody's reporting that. The person taking it isn't
Right.
reporting it. The person stealing it isn't reporting the income.
right.
I mean, this is all unreported, and it's one person that we accidentally found.
Right. Via a drug investigation, you find them
Correct.
doing secondhand dealer work.
Yep.
Probably challenging the legitimate business out there doing it with
I'm sure.
the amount, right? And probably undercutting the value too. Utterly incredible. And then all that money we're talking about, all this money being generated on the black market, is really at the end of the day going to fuel violence.
100%. It goes right back to the drug dealers. I mean, done details where we let this product go and we followed them to see where they take that product. It's right to drug, to the drug homes, your corner stores. We see it every day, but it just, again, it just gives these drug dealers and their little cartels and these gangs that are out there, it just gives them the money to be able to buy more weapons, buy more drugs, and build this and build the violence.
It's a spiral. It's just spiraling, and our job as law enforcement is really at the end of the day to protect the vulnerable, right? Mm-hmm. And we're not protecting the vulnerable. In this case, the vulnerable may be the suspects. 5 have overdosed, 1's dead, right? They're even vulnerable. The poor person in the community can't afford to pay the inflation rate, right? But at the end of the day, please look at this, all this money, and these are snapshots of such an underestimated estimate, right? Is really fueling violence. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, drug dealers are violent people, and this is all about drugs, right? At the end of the day, that's an incredible thing that people are. Why are we so intent? Why do we have all these meetings? Why do we do shows like this? To let the average person out there know what's really occurring and why it affects them. And I think today we've illustrated in multiple ways that it should affect you in the community, whether you've been the victim of an overdose or a family member has, you've had something stolen from you, you're on a fixed income and you can't afford the inflation rate at the local store, or you've just seen the violence occurring through our community. It's all interrelated.
Sheriff, what I always like to say is, the violence affects the entire community, but property crime affects each member of the community. Mm-hmm. It's all interrelated. You're absolutely correct.
And finish up with a video here real quick. We're on a larceny, one of your larceny details, one of your retail theft details, and our great officers and deputies come upon a stolen vehicle and go to make the apprehension of the stolen vehicle in the parking lot. And what ensues next is, we've all been in a box store, maybe pushing your grandchildren and a baby carriage through the box store or something like that. And before you know it, stolen vehicle. By the way, the third person that was supposed to be in this vehicle is inside trying to commit a larceny.
Correct.
That's correct.
Trying to commit a larceny. You guys are on top of that. The guy's out in the parking lot, realize stolen vehicle, they go to make that stop, and this guy drives in the front door of a very busy box store in Monroe County. Could have killed your grandma, could have killed your granddaughter, could have killed your wife. And,
yeah.
This is not fair, man. This is not fair to anybody in our community.
It's just the 3 people in that vehicle. Not only did one person in that store, the passenger had already gone into the location and committed a larceny, and then the driver had gone into the store next to that and committed a larceny as well, all while this was going on.
Oh, while this is going on.
Correct.
People have no idea. No idea how bad this is and how out of control it is, and why we keep on pushing for just simple tweaks to make ourselves a little safer. It's almost common sense. So, guys, thank you for sharing. Thank you for the detail you put together. This is extra work. No one said you got a full in basket. You got a full in basket. All your people. But we asked you to put together a detail to address this and identify the true problem, and you painted a great picture of that. You just painted a great picture. Hopefully people see that picture and say, you know what, I need to get a little more involved in this conversation. I need to have some input into this conversation because it affects everyone in Monroe County.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Just wanted to give you a small glimpse into the problem of retail theft. If you think about what's going on here in Monroe County, some numbers you heard, $71 million. That's a conservative estimate of how much is being lost in just the box stores that we're dealing with here in Monroe County. $71 million over 34 months. Divide the math. That's a lot of cost to all of us. A good question came in about that. Are these stores self-insured? Well, some may be self-insured, but even with that, if they're reporting a loss, that means their insurance rates are going to go up. And they're not just going to eat that cost. We all are paying for this larceny. We're all paying, when we go to the stores and we have to go and increase in our pay to a product, that's okay for some of us that can afford it. We don't want to, but what if you're on a fixed income? What if you're poor? What if you're walking across the street from your house on a fixed income to go to the local store? Why should you pay $7 more every time you go to the store? This is not helping the people in our community that need help the most, and that's particularly the people that are living on fixed incomes that might be poor. So this glimpse just into that, $71 million, 34 months, that's a conservative estimate that we came up with. A lot of people ask, well, what can we do about it? One of the things that I'm trying to push out in this whole Facebook Live thing is get engaged in the conversation. This is important to you as an individual here in Monroe County. We all should be engaged in this conversation. Talk to your legislators, talk to your law enforcement officials. Get a true glimpse of the problem, and then request or demand, as people want to say nowadays, that assistance that you need, because we're all paying the piper. Think about this also. Think about this. The fuel of the violence that we're seeing in Monroe County, this is coming from this money. This money is fueling that violence. There's no doubt. You've seen the connection in this video, hopefully, how this money being stolen, pawned off, addiction fueling the drug trade fueling the violence we're seeing. It's all interrelated. It's very clear. Just want to be very clear, not all addicts are committing crimes. There's a lot of people I know personally that are addicted, and we're helping them out every day with that addictive state. They're not out committing crimes. But if you are, there's reasons we should be detaining you and helping you. And it helps us all out. Another good question that came in is about missing persons. Off topic, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to hit on that one. Missing persons, huge problem. Here at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, we just got done with a complete in-service. Every deputy was retrained. This is over a year and a half ago on missing person investigations and make sure we do those right. Every missing person we go to is documented. And you'll see if you watch our social media, every missing person that we take is also posted on social media. There's no way we're going to sit back and let a missing person investigation just sit on the sidelines. That's not our norms. That's not our values. A couple more questions that came in. Mike, Rochester, what can the community do? I just said it. What can the community do? Get engaged. Don't sit back and accept this as our norm. $71 million, 400 thefts. We're running details, the sheriff's office, multi-jurisdictional details. While we're running those 9 days of details, there's 400 calls for service for additional larcenies coming in. That's how prolific this problem is. So get engaged, sit around the dinner table with your family, talk about this, talk about people you need to call to get some more influence, give us some tools to help curb this problem. And we understand law enforcement is not the solution to all the world's problems, but we have a part in the play, and we're missing some very vital tools. Repeat offender standard and a dangerous standard. Got one more question. Nate from Rochester, store security, can they do anything? Great question. A lot of people say, well, why doesn't store security stop these folks? Well, think about this. If you're a business, maybe you don't want to use of force in your foyer, right? So someone's stealing $150 worth of stuff, security intervenes, there's a fight inside the foyer between security and the perpetrator. That's not good for business. So some of the reasons they may say hands off is just that. There's also liability that comes with it. When you detain someone and not everybody gets detained, wants to comply, and if there's a use of force, you're inheriting a lot of liability. So a lot of stores, and we talked to it, the detective talked about it today. A lot of stores are saying hands off to a certain dollar amount. Each store is different. We understand that. Each has their own liability that they want to assume when they do this type of work. But the fact is, there's no doubt these are underreported, and sometimes security has been told directly, no hands on, for the reasons I described earlier. Listen, folks, we tried a little something different today. We just wanted to paint the picture. This is a huge problem. This is only one of the problems in our community, but we wanted to paint the picture of this problem. We wanted to get you engaged, make you understand why it affects you, and then what you can do about it. Hopefully we painted that picture for you a little bit today. Hopefully you stay engaged with us. We're out here, these deputies are working hard, these police officers are working hard to do our part, and that's to curtail some of this crime that's going on in our community, because we all pay. You pay, I pay, we all pay. You've seen that video of that vehicle driving in the front door of a box store. You could have very well been walking in that door at the exact same time, and that's unacceptable in our community every day of the week. Thank you for listening. So appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, answer a few questions. Have a great weekend.